Airlines in Singapore and Australia are ramping up flights as anticipation builds for a travel bubble that could be established as early as next week. Prime Minister Scott Morrison says the arrangement is in its final stages. Singapore Airlines and Qantas are increasing flights for the quarantine-free arrangement. SIA has announced its flagship Airbus A380 aircraft will be resuming Singapore to Sydney flights. Bookings to Melbourne have also begun. Qantas says it will step up plans to restart flights and upsize some planes because of massive demand. Singapore's Prime Minister says he's delighted to hear that Australia will be allowing entry to visa holders from Singapore. Lee Hsien-loong says both countries have robust economic and investment links and warm people-to-people ties. Mr. Lee says he looks forward to resuming close connectivity between the countries as they move towards an endemic COVID future. And for more on this, Danielle Robertson joins us live from Sydney. Danielle, this would be Australia's first bubble outside of New Zealand. What needs to be sorted out before the final announcement?
Yeah, well, there are a few things that need to be sorted out, and a decision is going to be made within days as authorities make these final plans to allow free travel between the two countries. And while this is exciting news, it's part of Australia's gradual reopening as the country reaches the 70% target of the population fully vaccinated, with many hoping that that milestone would come with international air mile benefits, and that now does seem much closer in reach than it has been in the last 18 months. But it is exciting. There are a few things that still need to be sorted out, and it does make it a little bit tricky considering every state and territory in Australia has different restrictions when it comes to COVID-19. So decisions on where international travellers will fly in and out of needs to be made, and that is also going to be dependent on whether states and territories have a relaxation of their quarantine rules. So it may mean, for example, that people from Singapore may only be allowed to fly into places like New South Wales and Victoria, considering those states have announced that they are going to scrap hotel quarantine from November 1. Decisions also need to be made on where international travellers can go once they arrive in Australia. There may be restrictions on which states and cities they can travel to domestically once they come here. And of course, decisions on COVID tests that may need to be taken before they leave or before they get on a plane. There have also been discussions over vaccination passports. That is something that may need to be taken on board to ensure that all international travels have been vaccinated, and the Therapeutic Goods Administration also has to clarify which vaccinations they are going to approve in Australia. That may or may not include vaccinations that have been manufactured in China, for example, alongside Moderna, Pfizer, AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson. And for the priority list, well, people who are travelling for business and students are reportedly going to take priority before tourists, so it may be a while yet until tourists will be allowed to arrive here. But overall, things are in motion, and it's just those final few details that need to be nutted out.
Yes, and already airlines and businesses, they're ramping up preparations as well.
Yeah, airlines are getting ready to take advantage of this bubble. They're getting ready to get back in the air, particularly for an industry that has been one of the hardest hit during this pandemic. They do want to take advantage of this bubble to try and give the aviation industry in Singapore and Australia an economic boost that is much needed. Singapore Airlines saying that they are going to resume flights to Sydney as early as December. Australian airlines like Qantas saying they're going to push forward their international travel timetable. They do have a lot of things that they are preparing for, including rosters, bringing on more staff, making sure they have enough pilots and that they can also adhere to the COVID rules and make sure they're ready to go. But overall, the aviation industry in Australia is ready to get back in business, and they will do what it takes to make sure that the flights can go ahead.
All right, many thanks. Danielle Robertson in Sydney.